Thanks for tuning in to Ask Campion. I'll be answering your questions on everything from cars to being a roadie for legendary rock and roll acts to running a $1 billion business. First question is for Joe Ball 86 from Instagram. Wants to know, was it in the States when I broke into power for concerts, or was I involved in that game in Ireland? Great question. Actually, back in Ireland, I was running discos for the nuns at the convent in girls' school in Turner's Cross, Cork. And I got to tell you, when the difficult negotiations was getting paid from I'll tell her name in a second, Sister Gertrude. Sister Gertrude was a tough negotiator. So I think I learned two things. I learned how to make some money and negotiating skills thanks to Sister Gertrude. So that's kind of the story. I started at Power when I came to America. I was working for a rock and roll lighting company, 84, 85, 86. And then suddenly I said there's a need for power. So I started Show Power in 1987. Next question, my friend JC Goodlet, 2 from Instagram, asks, as a serial entrepreneur, what do I see as the next wave of energy innovation? What I think the next innovation is, and all jokes aside and all seriousness, is energy storage. Energy storage through stored hydro, energy storage through compressed air, but mainly through batteries. And as we see, Elon Musk is leaning into that heavily right now. So anything that Elon's leaning into, I think people need to take up and notice. What's happening is it's energy storage. We have a lot of power at night because we don't use it during the day. In most countries, the peak is during the day, so we have a lot of excess energy at night. So if those generators can generate electricity at night, that can be stored and it can be released during the day. It saves us building a lot more power plants. But it's also very, very effective in stabilizing the grid as the sun goes down, because the sun is not binary. It's not on or off. It's not a light switch. The sun gets darker and darker and darker as the sun begins to set. And that creates a lot of fluctuation in the output from these solar plants. And if you can put a bunch of batteries on the back end of that, you can regulate that so you've got a constant output. So I would say energy storage is certainly the next big thing. We're going to see a lot of money in and out of that game in the next 5 to 10 years. The next question comes from 901 Motorsports on Instagram. What assets are easily to monetize, profitable, and what would be your advice for generating wealth? I think assets are all very interesting. I'm very much an asset guy. You know, APR Energy builds, owns, and operates power plants, but we own them first and foremost, so we own the assets. Obviously, my automobiles are assets, aircraft are assets, and I'm a big asset kind of guy. I think to make money, you first have to understand that asset class you're interested in, whether it's an aircraft, an automobile, or real estate. Really begin to understand the market and the product and the specific asset you're interested in. So there's money to be made in all sorts of assets. Some assets are commodities, some assets are long-term. But I think fundamentally understanding the asset and the asset class, then understanding the market, you'll certainly protect yourself for getting at the top of a bubble. You'll learn when to know to buy at the bottom end and ride it up and get out at the right time. But the last thing you want to do in any asset class is being involved in a bubble, and when the music stops, you have no chair. So don't be holding the bag. Understand the market, understand the asset class, and I think you'll do fine. My favorite question of the day has got to be this. From Audibilia Moss on Instagram. What's my favorite wine? Fantastic question. So, my shoes are Italian, my pants are Italian. Generally speaking, my shirt's Italian. I love Italian food. My wife's Italian. So I gotta say, my cars, they're Italian. Lots of Lancias, lots of Fiats, a couple of Ferraris, all Italian. So my favorite wine must be Italian. So I love all sorts of Italian wine. I like Super Tuscans, I like Piedmont. My favorite white wine has to be Agave d'Agave, and that's a long story for another day. It goes back maybe 25, 30 years. But I love Sassicaillas, I love Orneellas, I love Tigniellos. I like all sorts of Italian wine. And I think that even a cheap Chianti in a basket is fantastic with a slice of pizza. It's you can't drink a California wine and have a slice of pizza. Of course you can, but I think a Chianti in a basket really adds a bit of that Italian flavor. And of course you can always use it as a candle holder later. But seriously, Italian wine, it's the best. Thanks for tuning in. Please subscribe to our channel below. If you have any other questions, put them in the comment section below. We can talk about cars, we can talk about wine, we can talk about food, we can talk about anything you want to talk about. You'll get my perspective, which is guaranteed to be interesting. So catch us on Twitter, catch us on Instagram, John J. Campion.